Hello comrades and welcome to our new amazing fabulous studio. Welcome back to the summit. We're trying to have it weekly, but by now time is like once a half a year podcast. Usually it's with Robert, but now first time I have ice cold Moritz sitting next to me. We're gonna talk about racing. Quick reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the link in the description below where you can listen it on podcast. You can also download it and play it on your phone or in your car or etc. etc. It might get dark a bit later on. But to the point, the summit. We have two common recurrences. First of all, it's the drink of the summit, but we're not drinking because we are talking about racing. Water. What do you drink when you drive endurance racing?
Water, actually. Yeah.
Actually,
with
water.
a little bit of salt because you're sweating a lot. Therefore, you just put a bit of salt in the water, still water, to get the salt back in the body.
Okay. Interesting. I heard actually some people prefer the opposite of salt, a sweet tea, for their brain to function better, for the glucose. But
yeah, I try to eat between the stints or before the racing some vegetables and some spaghettis to get the base, to get the carbs in my body. That's basically okay.
interesting, already something learned, and we even haven't started. The second thing that we always do at the summit is a giveaway. And this time we haven't thought of anything, but I think since we have Moritz, we have behind us our M4, Racing M4, I think we can say that we can give away an M4 lap, a taxi lap with Moritz behind the steering wheel once for the next time, because I want you to ask us something in the comment section, something for next time. What do you want to know from Moritz about whatever? But first, stay tuned till the end of this video because your question might get answers. Well, let's get started. Tell us more about yourself. Where did it start? Who are you? What are you doing now? Take it away.
My name is Moritz. I'm racing since 20 years now. Started in karting. Did that for 10 years roundabout, but was always more like on a club sport level because we never actually had the money to go big. It was just a hobby. And after 10 years we stopped, and by a lot of coincidences I got the chance to drive race cars, and that was back in 2012. And I always met the right people at the right time who helped me because I couldn't finance it, or just could finance just a very small part. And yeah, and in 2016 I had my first full drive, and since then it all went up.
And by now you are a paid driver, so you actually, instead of paying, you get paid to drive.
Exactly, yeah.
This is something we're going to get more into detail later on in this video or in this podcast, whichever you're watching or listening. First, another question people have asked: how did you get the nickname Ice Cold Moritz that you hear in the videos? Yeah. I try to stay very humble with many things, but this is something I can say that I came up with it. Yeah. There was a post that you were doing taxi laps, I believe, in an old Porsche, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that was like
a 964 or something.
No, it was like even older. From the 70s, late 70s.
Old 70s race car Porsche that takes big balls to drive, or a very ice cold character. And he posted a Facebook post like, I was doing taxi laps today in this Porsche, and not a single picture showed any piece of smile or excitement. It was just like, and I'm like, dude, you're ice cold. And it kind of stuck.
Yeah, and then yeah, since then it's ice cold.
Yeah, you don't have it on your helmet yet, but I guess we'll get there. Maybe maybe if this video gets like 10,000 likes, you'll get maybe like, I don't know, he'll change his Instagram name to Ice Cold Moritz, we'll see.
We will see.
Another question, what's your daily driver?
My daily driver used to be the Chitbox Fiesta, that pink colored Fiesta. But it actually broke down after 250,000 kilometers, and since June I'm having an Opel Corsa. Okay,
but a newer model. So
yeah, it has like 60,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that people have asked on social media, like Instagram and Facebook. Today we also published a video where you were driving GTR, I was sitting in the passenger seat, so there were some questions there as well. We picked out the most of them. Again, this video is going to be more of introductory, so post a bit more questions in this in the video. First, it's a very interesting question. It's not about the nowadays, what are you doing in preparations? We're going to get into that more into detail, but there was an interesting question. If you would go back in time, if you could go back in time, which car or which series would you like to race, to compete in?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I think the Group C in the 80s was very cool, but also, even though it was very dangerous, the late 60s, early 70s, Formula One, I really loved that era.
Especially on the Nordschleife.
Yeah, just like the old cars, you had a lot of different sounds and everything. Today it always sounds the same. And back in the 70s and 60s you had V8s, V12s, so it was pretty cool.
Did you ever drive a classic car? Well, you drove the classic Porsche that got you the nickname, I called Moritz, but...
That's basically it. I would love to get my hands on one of those cars, of course. Who doesn't, but no opportunity yet.
Okay, so if you own one or if you know someone, help this man out, because I think this is something he has deserved and would be a great show. Or maybe it would be boring because he's ice cold. Regarding racing, a lot of people asked, how do you get started? In your case, you said you started with go-karts as a kid. How old were you back then?
I started in '98 at the age of 10. That's basically the age when you like to be very good in a certain sport whatsoever. You should start as a kid. It's like when you play soccer or football. When you start with the age of 20, you will never go into a national team.
Yeah.
So
while we are on this actual topic, some people say you actually, if you want to be pro, you should start even like at the age of 4 in go-karts. Some people are like against it because like the human body of a not grown child cannot handle the impact forces, etc. But in your case, you would say it turned out okay when you were 10. You still
I mean, the earlier you start, obviously, it's the better it is. When you have a child that's 4 years old, you shouldn't go on a live racetrack.
No.
But you can go like slalom, do some slalom karting to get like the first feeling of driving a vehicle. That would be, for example, something you could do. But nowadays everything is relatively safe. You have a lot of also the neck support in karting as well. It's a little different than in the car in the car with the hands device. But they also have something since nearly 10 years now. I think.
Moving more a bit on, if you are say 18 years and or maybe like 20 and you start earning your first money, or you have the opportunity to drive cars and you haven't been in a karting, how big are the chances you think that people can make it into being a race car driver?
In the end, it always comes down to the budget you have. I mean, if you have enough money, anybody can be a race car driver. As soon as you have a racing license, you get in a race car, you're a racing driver. But then you have it's like a pro driver, amateur driver. So it's all about two different approaches to race car drivers, I think. So a professional race car driver, it will be very difficult if you start at the age of 18 or 20 to drive, to do your racing license, then start driving, because that's like when I would start playing football now, I would never make it to the national team.
No, of course not.
So it's kind of the same there.
Yeah, I think you really need to ask yourself the question where you want to be. Do you want to be a paid driver who gets paid to drive cars and be very good at it? Or do you want just to drive? Because if you just want to drive, you just arrive and drive, you pay a certain amount of money depending on the type of race. Or you can also build your own race car and compete like in some kind of time attack series or even VLN series or any type of series. It depends what you want. If you want to become a paid driver and you don't have the skills, it speaks for itself that it's not really possible. If you want to just race with a certain budget, it can be even like starting from a couple of €100, or like, well, if you like with doing like a endurance race, like a 4-hour race, for example, and you're with 4 people, then say €1,000 a person in like an old E36.
Yeah, that
should be sufficient.
Yeah, but you also have to have in mind what's happening when you have an accident.
Exactly.
The insurance, or is it not insured? You have to pay the full damage when a car burns down. You have like
Exactly, and apart from that, you also need to have your racing equipment. You need to travel there, like to stay, the hotel stay. This is something maybe it should have its own dedicated video, how much it costs to run a certain race. But for now, let's move on into going into being a race car driver. So you started as a go-karts, but let's move on now to actual nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that being a race car driver is actually, well, they all think it's a glamorous, it's a dream job, but there's a lot.
Maybe when you're Formula One driver.
Maybe, but even then, the preparations to be one and to maintain your skill level are actually quite hard. If you follow this guy, and if you're not, you make sure to check out his Instagram page. Like pretty much daily, you post like stories that you sit on your home trainer and watch TVs. So can you tell us? Well, yeah. Can you tell us more about your preparation, your physical preparation to maintain your endurance, your stamina?
Yeah, I mean, it's called motorsports for a reason. A lot of people think you're just sitting in a car and driving circles. But it gets very hot in the car. You have the G-forces. You need to maintain your concentration. And all that together is very difficult or very tough on the body. And therefore, for example, I'm riding my bike a couple of times a week to like 200, 250 kilometers. That's the goal. That's what I'm looking for to do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when I have a lot of stuff to do, it's less. And in other weeks where I have less stuff to do, it's more. But on average, it's between 200, 250 kilometers.
Mm-hmm. And through the mountains, the Eifel region.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not just
up
like
and down.
flat, you go up and down, lots of endurance exercises. Mm-hmm.
And then I try to go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week as well. Not to be like a bodybuilder, but just to train my muscles to give me the stability in the car. Because even though you are very tight in the seats, your body is still working all the time to cope with the forces. And once you actually lose that the body tension, you lose the feeling for the car, the neck, the body, whatever. And as soon as you lose the feeling for the car, you lose speed. You start doing mistakes, and worst case, you crash. And that's the reason why you have to do a lot of preparation.
Yeah, a lot of physical exercises. So 250 kilometers is quite a lot. And I don't think I even drive this much on a weekly basis, let alone walk or bicycle. So it's quite a big exercise. So that's regarding the physical preparation. Is there anything else you do? Because you know that professional teams, we visited I believe a month ago, visited Manthey Racing, and they said that they had video analysis of their pit stops, so they would reduce the pit stop time.
Yeah.
Is there what kind of data analysis can you tell us about that you do invest as being a race car?
Yeah, basically for the Nordschleife, it's basically always the same because it's VLN is always the same. Arrive on Friday, practice on Friday, racing on Saturday, going home Saturday evening. So it's the same with the data. You have like a certain very good lab. And this is like the reference lab, and then you see what you're doing in this lab. And then when I'm working with my teammates or with some customers I'm taking care of in VLN as well, you just compare like what's the throttle trace, what's the brake trace, and you can see on how the brake trace is developing. How is he on the brakes? Is he too early? Is he too late? Is the buildup of the pressure fast enough? And so on and so on. And that's actually something you can do with data analysis. That's like very basic stuff, because in GT4 or even in GT3 Cup you're not allowed to have so many sensors on the car. And for driver analysis, with the level of most of the drivers, it's okay to start with these basic stuff anyway. That's what we're doing in VLN. When you go over abroad in the US, it's a little more difficult because, for example, when we were racing in Portland in Oregon in July, it was the first time we were actually there. We had no data, no nothing. So me and my teammate were working together, comparing our data to see. I was gaining in, for example, Sector 1. He was gaining Sector 2, and in Sector 3 we were equal. So then we tried to make sure that everybody gets the best out of everything, so that we are competitive.
Do you do any data analysis of competitors?
If I would get the hands on the data, it would be very good.
But do you do some video analysis?
If there's some footage online, yes. But on the other hand, it's very difficult. If you just see the onboard footage, you can see the line maybe. If you know the car very well, you maybe could even see on the shifting points, on the what kind of speed he's circa doing. But just seeing onboard footage without any data doesn't help so much.
So people who are want to drive the Nürburgring, for example, Nordschleife,
Yep.
and they watch some onboards of someone doing a lap, is that something that they can do or should not do? What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Preparation is always good. And if you don't know the layout, every lap you watch on a video will give you, like, even if it's just a small amount, it gives you a little more information about the way the track or the layout of the track. But if you watch a lap from a very fast driver, don't think you can do it the first time you're out there. The first time you're out there, be respectful, treat it as it would be like a unknown public road you're going on. Because if you go if you're like on holiday and you're on a public road you don't know, you don't think you can speed there as well.
Yeah.
So just take it easy the first time.
Another very often recurring question in the comment section, whether it's regarding driving the Nürburgring or any type of racetrack, is how much do I think, but in general, how much, in this case, how much do you think that race car simulators or race car games can contribute to preparing to drive either a racetrack or become a better driver in general?
It's certainly a very big point. I mean, when I'm going abroad, as I said before, Portland, I couldn't test, or Virginia, or wherever we were. There's no chance to test before. I do a lot of stuff on a simulator. I know that the way the car is acting in a simulator is not 100% the same it is in real life. But it's very close. I can get a feedback or get a feeling for the layout of the track, how to drive the certain corners, because everything is laser scanned nowadays. So all the bumps, the curbs, everything is very accurate. So this actually helps to reduce the learning time you need on a new racetrack. When I go out on a new racetrack after 3 to 5 laps latest, I'm on 99% straight away. And that's also down because of the simulator. You can also learn a lot of dogfighting skills on the simulator, because in online racing, in proper online racing, you're actually fighting against other sim racers. They do the same stuff that real race drivers do. Maybe even harder, because there are no real consequences. You crash and then you push escape and start again. So that's something you actually can, the dogfighting skills is very helpful. And also a little bit about the setup. As I said, it's not 100% accurate and all the same, but still you can get a feeling when I change the dampers or the anti-roll bar, whatsoever, how's the car reacting to that. So there's a lot of stuff you can actually learn from a simulator. Even the handling when the car has oversteer and stuff, the reaction times. So there is a lot of stuff you can actually learn from a simulator.
What sim are you using? Is it something like custom-built professional, or is it like something that people can get their hands on, like Assetto Corsa, iRacing?
Yeah, that's basically it. I use iRacing because they have a lot of the US tracks, obviously laser scans. So I take the Cup car, 911 Cup car, because they have no GT4 last time I played it. And then just go out there and learn the track.
What setup are you using? Is it Fanatic gear or just some Trustmaster?
It's just standard Logitech G27, nothing special. I mean, if you want to go really competitive, I think you actually need to have Fanatec or stuff like that, because it is actually better than the G27 from Logitech, in my opinion. But just to go out to learn the layout of the track, I don't need to have an expensive gear.
Well, that's a quite interesting answer. I mean, if a GT4/GT3 driver can just practice with pretty much accessible stuff and doesn't need like a fully built €1 million simulator, then it's a good valid point. Like, first of all, you mentioned you racing in Portland and racing in the US. There were a couple of questions. If you would come to the US, what type of racing series would you run? But actually, many people don't know that you actually do race in the United States.
Yes, this year we are doing a couple of races in the Pirelli World Challenge Sprint X GTS. So that's GT4 racing, and that means 60 minutes races, 2 drivers. Then you have a driver change. And then I also did on the club sport level PCA. That's club sport Porsche. Some coaching and racing with the guy I was coaching. Last year I was racing one race in the IMSA series, and there's actually some more stuff planned this year in the US and also for the next season, but as long as it's not sure, we have to wait and see.
Speaking of racing, what's your most remarkable moment within your racing career?
It's a good question. The thing I was actually the most happy, or that really pushed me up, was last VLN actually, where I got the lap record for the GT4 Cayman class. I mean, that's something. It's a very tough competition there, and the lap record was standing for 2 years now. And this season I was like 3 or 4 times under that record already, until like prior time, until like half of the lap, and then traffic, tire pressures, whatever. So it was always like 1 second, 2 seconds slower than the actual record. But last race I actually had like a lap with nearly no traffic, and it was cold. The track was very fast. The engine had a lot of power because of the cold air. It's just that one lap. I don't think I will. You don't get that lap so easily back or again. So that was a moment where I was really happy. Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
What's the least fun experience that you had?
The least fun is crashing. That was like back in 2016. It was my first full season, and I knew I had to push really hard in every race to show that I have the speed. But if you push every race 100%, sooner or later, especially in the Nordschleife, something happens. And in the last race, I think I was leading the race. But I was on P2, but had 1 stop more than P1. So without the pit stops, I was leading the race. And during I was lapping somebody, I hit a wet patch and then crashed. So basically while leading, I crashed with like 90 minutes to go. And that was the last race of the season, and that was not so good because then you go into the winter on a down. And that takes a lot out of you took a lot out of me to be confident again. Because like in German they say, when you fall off a horse, go back on it straight away. But because it was end of the season, there was no chance to get back on it. So it was a lot of a long winter, getting back in the car in March. Because at that time I was only racing VLN, and the first laps were difficult. Yeah.
Speaking of the winter, what do you do in off-season time?
I do a lot of stuff for my team, like basic office stuff. Then of course the preparation, because you never can stop the training, because once you're out for like 1 month, you need like 1 month again to be on the old level. And when everybody else is continuing their sports, you lose the competition. You lose to the competition. So actually it's a lot of training, especially in winter time, because I actually have more time to do sports, because during the season, track days, coachings, racing, taxi. So it's a very tough schedule, but in winter time there's a lot of time, so I can do actually more sports to prepare for the new season.
Going back to the racing point and the downsides of it, we can know that racing also involves lots of politics and sometimes some dirty moves. What's the thing, without mentioning any names, that you've experienced that many people don't know by going to the stage and they see some cars passing by? But what's behind the scenes that something was...
I mean, of course, there's always some bumping and rubbing, especially in the cup classes, because I'm doing GT3 Cup and GT4 Trophy. That's both. It's like one make classes, so everybody has the same car, so it's very difficult or very tough. And with the GT3 Cup, sometimes when you go into a code 60 zone, the guy in front of you sees that he just doesn't break down to 60, he breaks down to 40. Just like hoping you might go into him in his back and then you break a radiator on the cup car. That's very easy. That with the Cayman, it's kind of the same. What I really didn't like was in this year in the 24-hour race, first start of the 24-hour race, very first 3 laps. So basically right at the beginning, there was one guy in the GT4 who actually, I was really pissed because he moved a lot under braking. That means like when you go into the corner and somebody's making a move and you're both braking and he sees that you are going to the inside and then he closes the door on you. That's a very dirty move in my opinion, because it's just, for me, it's not possible to slow any more down because I'm already slowing down as much as I can. And because I'm doing that, I cannot move the car left or right. So he's closing a door on me that he shouldn't. So that was happened a few times. He closed the door on me in mood curve. We're doing like with the GT4, you're doing 190. So I hit the curb at 190, went on 2 wheels, and in the second or third lap. So I thought, okay, just go. It's a long race. And in the end, they crashed. So yeah.
Karma. Okay. So, well, going back to the more positive thing, what's your most remarkable and positive battle where there was no dirty moves?
Most remarkable battle. In VLN, it's actually quite difficult to tell because a lot of times you're just doing laps on your own and you drive as fast as I can. There was back in 2016, even though actually it was one battle with 2 moves at the beginning and at the end of the race. It was where we going too wide to Tiergarten. Both times doing 260, going too wide up to the Hohenrhein chicane. One time I came out on top and the other time the other guy came out on top. But it was very fair racing. Everybody respected each other, and that was, even though in the end I didn't came out on top, it was still a good fight for me because it was fair. And then I actually liked the GT4 European Series. Second race, I had to start from P45 because I had a tire failure in qualification for the second race. And I made my way up to P7. So I overtook like 38 cars or something. And that was like one long battle. And that was actually, for me, one of the best performances. Yeah.
Awesome. Now that we're talking about the Nordschleife again, what's your most favorite and least favorite section of the track?
The most favorite section is starts at Hohe Acht, going down to Wipperman, Brünnchen, Pflanzgarten, Stefan Bellof S. Because it's actually a very fast section, a lot of fluent corners. I really, really like that. And the least favorite part is maybe Schwedenkreuz. It's a difficult corner. I had some moments there, and yeah, that's a corner when you're really attacking, you always hold your breath. Or at least I do.
Well, I think we covered the main topics already by now. Let's save some of them for the next time, not to make this video podcast way too long. Again, feel free to ask us extra questions. The last question is, if person is already racing or is involved in some type of motorsports, how can they improve themselves? What's the tip that you can give to a person?
Yeah, don't ever think that you are that you learned everything, that you have the best. Even though I have now the lap record and I think also the fastest time GT3 Cup this season, I'm still not. Even though you're going back home, you still think, okay, this could have been better, this could have been better, and maybe the other guy was, for whatever reason, not 100%, so he could have gone faster. So for me, I never lean back and think, okay, so there's always somebody, there are guys out there that are faster than me. That's all the Formula 1 drivers, for example. Yeah. So, but never stop learning when you can learn something. I mean, drivers in general, they're often like, yeah, especially German drivers, not racers, but German drivers in general think that they are like the best drivers. So, and if you have somebody who has a lot of experience, even if he is not as fast as me. I mean, in the US, there was one guy who was coaching the co-driver I was racing with, and he, in the Cayman, he is not as fast as me, But still, I was listening to him because he's racing for 30 years now. He has so much experience, especially on the track where we're racing. So I would be stupid not to listen to him. So when somebody has to tell something, always listen to him.
What's your goal in racing? Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 or 10 years? Where you want to be?
I obviously still want to be involved in racing. I want to race. And I personally, I made this step from GT4 to GT3 Cup this season. And I want to race GT3. Obviously, that's the goal, or the fastest GT class there is. And that's at the moment the GT3 class in Europe. And that's basically the goal. But it's always down to finances. Of course, what the sponsors or the team is capable of or what the team can do. And so in the end, I just want to give my best performance every time I'm out there, and then see where it ends up. Because sometimes a lot of stuff is in your hands, but certain stuff isn't, and to be worried about stuff that I cannot control is a waste of time. So, yeah.
Would you like to be a industry pool driver?
If it's, it would be cool, of course, to do some iPool testing, because driving is fun.
Of course, especially getting paid for it.
Yeah. So, but that's not, if I could get in there, I wouldn't say no. But obviously I want to race, and that's...
You said it all depends on the sponsors. The interesting point is that you don't really have a sponsor. And there were also a lot of questions regarding sponsorship. How can you get a sponsor? But the interesting part about you is that you don't actually have like a big sponsor that's pushing you. You have some partners, your team has partners. Yeah. Maybe you can say something more about that. Yeah,
the team, for example, has H&R Special Springs as a big sponsor. I have Racer24 as a sponsor, Frozen Speed, who's doing my pictures. But actually I don't have a big financial sponsor. I never had, but that's what I said at the beginning. I always had people who actually helped me somehow. So I got through there without investing a lot of money by myself. And that was so much luck involved. So I know that I was very lucky. And sponsorship is very difficult. A lot of sponsors you see in racing are somehow combined or very close to the driver, father, uncle, or something like that often. And it's difficult to get a sponsor. I tried it a long time. It never worked out, and I actually said, okay, then that's it. But for some reason, always a new opportunity came up, a new drive arrived, and I could keep on driving and climb. And
yeah, so basically 2 things we can learn from this. If you're looking for support, it doesn't have to be financial support. You can have someone, for example, like Racecar24 that offers you like a discount or full clothing equipment.
Exactly.
You can have Frozen Speed that offers you photography. And on many other levels, you can get a product in return for like your service. It could be anything. So there is that. Don't get focused on the financial part of sponsorship, on partnership. And the second thing...
Exactly. And it actually should be always a partnership.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be only like somebody's take, and you should be able to give something back.
Yeah. And the second thing is, if you're looking to get your name out in the motorsports, maybe you can attach your name to Moritz, because he wouldn't mind. I think, this is it. I think we covered the main topics, and it's literally getting dark, so we should cut this video. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being amazing taxi driver of our company.
My pleasure.
And again, guys, let us know in the comment section what you want to hear next time. Also, make sure to follow Moritz on Instagram and his Facebook, or reach out to him on his personal website. If you want to get into racing, or you're already racing, whether it's in Europe or in the States, you also do lots of coaching. You're not getting in the car with people.
No, since I was in hospital for a couple of days, I stopped doing that. So it's
Yes,
all down
but-
to data.
Yeah, you're doing data analysis, but you also do lead and follow, so people can follow you, and that's probably maybe even also better. So for advanced drivers, Moritz is the guy to go to whenever he has time, if he has time, whenever he's not driving taxi or racing here or overseas. So there's that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Again, make sure to post some interesting question to Moritz for next time. And see you then, or either in next video or podcast or here at the Nürburgring. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.